Welcome in to Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, one of the strangest postponements in the history of the Philadelphia Phillies. The smoke from Canada caused the Phillies to not play the Tigers yesterday. We'll talk about some of the weirdest postponements in Philadelphia sports history, and we'll also preview, again, today's matchup with the Phillies and the Tigers, and why this actually kind of helps the Philadelphia Phillies out a little bit with their schedule coming up. We'll discuss on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host, here in the beautiful city of Philadelphia that is currently still covered in smoke. Locked On Phillies is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Appreciate you checking us out. If you're listening on a podcast network, if you're listening on YouTube and watching on YouTube, thank you very much. Make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing, all that good stuff. Appreciate it. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/lockedonmlb. And when you enter promo code LOCKEDONMLB, they'll throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. So go ahead and check out our friends from Bird Dogs. I'm actually, as I stand up on the YouTube, can you see them? I'm pulling them up a little bit. Yeah, I'm wearing my Bird Dogs today. And I have a championship basketball game tonight. And I might wear my Bird Dogs for that too. I love Bird Dogs. So go ahead and check them out. They'll appreciate your business very much, and I appreciate you using code LOCKEDONMLB. So let's jump into it. Now, the Phillies were supposed to play the Tigers last night. That game obviously did not go through. It was postponed till tonight. So the Phillies take on the Tigers tonight, 6:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can hear every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies. You'll be able to listen to that. But Phillies take on the Tigers tonight because they were postponed due to all this smoke from the wildfires up in Canada. I mean, not the only game canceled. Games in New York were canceled. I mean, this wasn't just a Philadelphia-related event, but the East Coast, this whole Northeast corridor with the big cities where you're looking at Philly and D.C. and New York and Baltimore. We're getting crushed by smoke right now. It's unbelievable. If you haven't seen some of the pictures yet, go ahead and check it out. I mean, I live in Center City, Philadelphia. I could not believe it took them as long as they did. Them being Major League Baseball and the Phillies to postpone yesterday's game. I mean, the air quality was just terrible. I'm sucking on a cough drop right now. You might be able to hear that at some point. I might have to stop to go ahead and suck on the cough drop a little bit because I said it a little bit in yesterday's episode. So I have no sense of smell. Born without it, never been able to smell. My sinuses are terrible. And normally I don't get bad with allergies, but in the winter when it gets really dry or something, it crushes me. I feel terrible. Well, I have had breathing problems for 2 days now because of this smoke coming in. Like, it's really bothered my throat. My throat's all scratchy and itchy. I mean, my sinuses are messed up. For some people, it may just be like, okay, it's a little smoky outside and it smells weird and everything like that. But for other people, it could be super hard to breathe and could bother them physically and stuff like that. So these conditions are not to be taken lightly. Just because they aren't bothering you doesn't mean they're not bothering someone. And I don't think the main concern was the players in the postponement of the game. Like, yes, of course they want the players to be safe, but your average Major League Baseball player is in great health and they work out a bunch and they have a high lung capacity because they're athletes and they're always running around and stuff like that. And they could probably withstand it. But you got to remember, in these stadiums, you're sitting down 40,000 fans, and who knows who they are and what they have going on with them. And listen, I love the Philadelphia Phillies as much as the next person. A Philadelphia Phillies baseball game is not something worth dying over. That might be a novel concept to some people, but no, it's not worth dying over. So good work by the Phillies and Major League Baseball to go ahead and postpone. I'll tell you what, I'm looking out of my window right now, and the air quality looks improved. Yesterday, there was a point where Philadelphia had the worst air quality of any major city on the planet. Yes, worse than cities in China, where there's always that type of heavy haze and everything like that, and we're constantly aware of how bad the air quality can be. Worse than the West Coast, where you're about the smog and everything. No, this was on the planet, in the world, the worst major city when it comes to air quality, and you can't play in that. totally understand why they went ahead and did not play yesterday's game. And all they did was they just pushed the game back to today. Uh, the quality is getting a little bit better as I look around out my window. This is frontline reporting from yours truly, Connor Thomas. And I think they could probably play through it today. But listen, I'm recording this at about 3 p.m. There's no guarantee that these guys are going to get this game in today either. And that would mean that Detroit, who doesn't play the Phillies for the rest of the season, would have to come back at some point and travel in on an off day for both teams and try and figure that out. That makes scheduling interesting with Major League Baseball, but would you rather have scheduling be interesting, or would you rather have people experience major negative health effects from going to this game? I know which one seems simpler to me, and it's definitely the scheduling. So that would be my recommendation if there's any question. But if Major League Baseball deems it safe enough to play, and they talk to the experts and everything like that and do their due diligence, then teams will play tonight. So that's basically the long and short of what's going on with the Philadelphia Phillies and Detroit Tigers situation right now. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. And coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the strangest delays in Philadelphia sports history. We talked about it a little bit on the radio this morning. Just to give you an idea, though, Zach Wheeler is still going to take the mound for the Philadelphia Phillies, but we have Tyler Holton, who's going to go on the mound for the Detroit Tigers. Now, he's pitched 31 innings in the regular season for the Detroit Tigers, and he's got a 2.32 ERA with 23 Ks, a .94 WHIP. He's been really good. This is a bit of a change and advantage for the Philadelphia Phillies because Tyler Holton is significantly better than the scheduled pitcher for yesterday. So we'll see if that has any effect. But Zach Wheeler also, I was talking to Ricky Batalico, who does Phillies post-game, Phillies pre-game, all kinds of stuff over there on NBC Sports Philadelphia, also a former all-star at the Major League level. And he was like, Zach Wheeler might strike out like 40 batters today because of the way that the Tigers are swinging aggressively and the lack of contact hitters they have in their lineup. So still shouldn't matter. I still like the Phillies' opportunity to win the game tonight. I'm not predicting wins or losses because that always gets me in trouble. But I like the Phillies' chances, and they've got a 63.4% to win percent chance to win, according to ESPN Analytics. So, yeah, advantage to the Phillies. They're 200 minus 250 favorites. I believe they were like minus 280 favorites yesterday. So that goes down a little bit with Holton on the mound, but still, Phillies should be able to handle this game. It'll just be interesting if they do indeed play. We know that the air quality is going to be different. The ball doesn't fly as well with this type of heavy air around. We saw that in the 1-0 victory the Phillies had over the Tigers on Tuesday. So, yeah, and it also eliminates an off day because it took a while for them to postpone the game. So the Phillies were there and kind of getting ready, and then they called it. So it's an interesting dynamic. But a little bit later on, I'll tell you why that we might see a benefit for the Philadelphia Phillies from this. But yes, everything as scheduled yesterday will go on today. Philadelphia Phillies, Detroit Tigers, 6:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can hear every pitch of the Phillies' hometown radio broadcast of that game on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies. You'll be able to pull everything else up there. So hopefully some baseball gets played today, as long as everything's safe, and we'll be able to see the Phillies continue their 4-game winning streak that they've built up. And it sucks to have that off day that might have a shot at momentum, but hey, listen, safety is important, the most important. And if everything goes well, hopefully you only miss the day and you'll go back at it today and build that momentum again. So that's where we stand with the Philadelphia Phillies. Coming up, we're going to have a little bit of fun, and we're going to talk about some of the weirdest sports delays in Philadelphia Phillies sports history. Yeah, we'll get into that as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. All right, I want to talk to you about BetterHelp. I mean, this is pretty pertinent right now because a lot of people are focused in on their physical health. We got smoke in the air and everything. It's incredible. I was just telling you how bad it feels, like how bad my throat and my breathing feels right now because of all this smoke, and sucking on cough drops and drinking as much water as I can to try and keep my throat from getting too dry and I can't breathe and stuff like that. That's all super evident, right? When we hear about our physical health, everybody freaks out. But then sometimes you hear about your mental health and people might try and just sweep it under the rug, or you don't know how to get help for it, or it doesn't feel like something worth getting help for. Listen, BetterHelp can help you out with that. It's so easy to get caught up in what everyone else needs from you and never take a moment to think about what you need from yourself, okay? But when we spend all of our time giving, it can leave us feeling stretched thin and burned out. Not by the smoke, no, burned out like mentally. And therapy can give you the tools to find more balance in your life so you can keep supporting others without leaving yourself behind. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It makes it super convenient. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You can make it work with any schedule. Go ahead and check it out and just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. And you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Don't even worry about the reason. Like, you can just hop on there. Maybe the first session doesn't go to your liking. Maybe you've had a person for a couple sessions and you're like, I'd like to try somebody else for whatever reason. That's fine. You can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. It's a great way to do it. Super flexible, super convenient, super important for you to take care of, and BetterHelp's the best way to do it. So find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today, and you'll get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. Okay, let's jump into it. Some of the weirdest delays in Philadelphia sports history. I mean, we talked about this morning on the radio, so got some of my work done early for me. Oh, excuse me. Yep, that's what it is. Dealing with this smoke. It's really messing up everything respiratory-wise. But so went through, and some were weather-related, some were just weird happenings in the game. I mean, we've seen a couple weird delays so far this year with medical situations with the Phillies. There was one where they were playing the Red Sox and a fan fell into the bullpen. Had a serious medical situation there that was taken care of before the game but caused the delay. There was one the other day where a fan behind the Phillies dugout was experiencing some type of medical emergency and delayed the game just for a couple seconds while medical personnel was making their way from the dugout up to the stands. But there have also been some weather ones. The Phillies. So I saw a nice graphic out from my Jay Cuda, I think it's pronounced Cuda, on Twitter, and he always puts out fun, stupid graphics that are like, it's dumb and it's like super rudimentary graphics and everything like that as far as the visual part of it. But he had the ways that games have been delayed this year. And there's been rain, there's been cold, and there's been smoke. And there's only one team in baseball that's got all three. Yeah, that's right. You guessed it. The Philadelphia Phillies have been delayed by rain, smoke, and cold so far this season. So there you have it, the trifecta. Next thing we need is snow and an earthquake and a hurricane and all this stuff and natural disasters and just Philadelphia Phillies baseball. Never boring. Always interesting, even when they don't play. But so there are some great ones in Philadelphia sports history as to reasons for why the game has been delayed. One of the big Phillies ones that happened recently. So there was an umpire early on in the game, like 2 years ago, where an umpire got hit in the spot that men do not want to get hit at. Yeah, and you can imagine that causes a delay. So he was down, and there was a delay, and they had to take him off, and they had to go with 3 umpires instead of the usual 4-man crew, and that all gets set up. And then before the first inning ends, the netting behind home plate, the safety netting collapses because one of the cables, I guess, snapped or something or came loose. And you'll remember this if you watch the Phillies a bunch when there was the net delay and everyone's trying to figure out what's going on. The whole ground screws got like zip ties and stuff like that. And they're starting a pulley system. They can't figure it out. And the whole net is loose and they need to get that fixed up so it's safe to play the game. So, yeah, if you had net delay and I guess the other one is nuts delay with the umpire earlier in that game, that was a weird one. I'm trying to think of other ones. I mean, the Sixers had one time at the Wells Fargo Center. The Sixers had one where they got set to play the game. And, of course, the Wells Fargo Center is a multi-purpose arena. The Flyers play there, play ice hockey, and the Sixers play there, play basketball. And then you have different events and stuff. And you have to have very advanced ventilation to make sure that building's ready to play. And for some reason, it wasn't working. And the Sixers court had so much moisture on it. So people were trying to mop up the floor, but they couldn't get the floor to not be wet. And there was too much moisture to safely play an NBA game. So the game indoors was canceled due to moisture. So that was weird. I mean, you, of course, have the Fog Bowl back in the day in the playoffs where the Philadelphia Eagles played a game where you could not see the field. They ended up losing that game. That one's wild. Everyone will always tell you about the Fog Bowl. I mean, there was the Eagles had also the Joe Webb game against Minnesota a couple years ago, probably more than a couple years ago at this point, where snow literally postponed a game between them and the Minnesota Vikings, causing the game to be played on Tuesday night. No ever heard of Tuesday night football, right? But no, it happened for the Philadelphia Eagles. So that was a huge delay. And then we just talked about some interesting ones around sports. the biggest, most memorable one for people maybe a generation before me. And there's a documentary out there about it, 30 for 30. I believe it's called The Day the Series Stood Still. I'm not sure if that's the exact title, but it was a World Series between the Oakland Athletics and San Francisco Giants, and there was an earthquake during the start of the game, during rush hour traffic out there in California. And it was a wild scene and a lot of serious damages, injuries, casualties from that earthquake, and it put the series on hold. I mean, what type of World Series gets hit by an earthquake? But that one did. That was a super scary situation. Obviously, that game was not played. So you have that situation. That's probably the most memorable for bad reasons as far as baseball is concerned. I mean, there's plenty of them. The Eagles actually had a game one time where the turf quality was not, they played a preseason game and the turf was not in good enough quality. So they just canceled that game altogether. It's just, there's a bunch of weird reasons. And I feel like Philadelphia sports always gets a lot of them. But yeah, you can add smoke to the list. Never thought there would be a smoke cancellation. I mean, when you talk about that, I'd say, oh, maybe the Cubs get canceled because of like a second Great Chicago Fire or something like that. But I don't fires aren't that prevalent in places where baseball stadiums are. So you never really have to worry about that when it comes to cancellation of games. But this is just such a large ranging, strong, raging fire up in Canada that has been brought down by the wind, and the smoke has brought it all down. It's taken over the East Coast, and some of the craziest stuff I've ever seen in my life when it comes to weather-wise. And hey, you see something new every day. It's not always good, but yes, the smoke delay is certainly up there as far as weird reasons why games have been delayed. Maybe I missed some. This is a now in lightness. This can be a fun topic about why games have been delayed. I'm not saying that these events are fun. I'm saying it's fun to think back and say, wow, how crazy was that? Or how wild was that? Or there are some where it's just like the turf was messed up. And that's one like, come on, guys. Or there was a snowstorm and it like snowed out or a game was rained out because, I mean, the Phillies had a World Series game postponed or like suspended rather against the Tampa Bay Rays in 2008. You all remember. And we had to wait a day and a half for the Philadelphia Phillies to go ahead and take care of business against the Rays in Game 5. So, I mean, yeah, you got a situation there where we've seen all kinds of different stuff. And maybe if I missed one, let me know in the comments of some of the weirdest sports delays that you've ever seen. It doesn't just have to be Major League Baseball. It doesn't just have to be Philly sports. But if there's any good ones that I missed with the Phillies or with Philadelphia sports in general, go ahead and let me know in the comments on YouTube. We'll go ahead and check that out. But hopefully, barring anything crazy, and if it's deemed that this city is safe to play baseball in today, the Phillies will take on the Tigers at 6:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can hear every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast on the Sirius XM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you can pull everything else up there. Coming up as we wrap up, we're going to talk a little bit about the Phillies schedule. And yeah, I know I told you when we talk about this game with the Tigers get a better pitcher on the mound than Holton, as opposed to a lower level pitcher that they were going to have yesterday. But the Phillies get an advantage a little bit later on because of this pushback. Not that much later on, though. Their next series. We'll discuss how this affects the Phillies series with the next team that they face on the schedule. That being, of course, the Los Angeles Dodgers here in Philadelphia, as long as those games can be played. Dodgers will be in town tomorrow, but we'll talk about how this can help the Philadelphia Phillies out potentially. All that as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Yeah, you know who I get to tell you about? Get to tell you about my friends over at Bird Dogs. I love Bird Dogs. I absolutely do. I don't go anywhere without my Bird Dog shorts on. That's not true. I shower without them. Sometimes I go to bed without them. Sometimes I go to bed with them on. I just took a nap. I wore my Bird Dogs. I wake up. I do this podcast. I wear my Bird Dogs. I go to my championship basketball game tonight. I wear my Bird Dogs. I go to work. I wear my Bird Dogs. Now, I have a job in radio, so I get a chance to do that. You can't necessarily wear them everywhere. But if your boss gives you trouble, just be like, boss, look how good my legs look in these Bird Dogs. Look at the stretchy interior fabric that's tight enough to keep you comfortable, but not too tight that it's not breathable. I mean, you look great. You feel great. The style is awesome. I got them. I like the short shorts, so I got the short, like I think they're 5-inch inseams. My legs look amazing. Listen, when I wear these shorts, people at work comment and say, damn, do they really need to be that short? Like, come on. Those shorts are way too short. And you know what that says to me? They notice. They noticed the legs. They noticed the shorts. They're like, those are some good-looking shorts. I'm jealous of Connor's legs. I got to make some comment about how short they are. And, of course, you can get them in different lengths to your preference. But, man, people notice bird dogs. People like them. You get compliments on them left and right. They feel amazing. There's no reason. Plus, I had an issue where I was leaving my laundry in too long, and guys at the radio station were like, you keep doing that, some of your clothes might get musty. Well, bird dogs use anti-stink, sweat-wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long and keeps you from smelling too bad. I mean, they've got so much good stuff woven into these shorts, so much good technology and research to create the perfect short. So go ahead and check it out. Get yourself a pair. And plus, when you go to birddogs.com/lockedonmlb and enter promo code lockedonmlb, you'll get a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedonmlb for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your bird dogs off. We absolutely promise you. And that tumbler, big time, if, smoke invades your city, I've been carrying mine around, drinking water out of it all the time to make sure that I don't choke to death. So not only is bird dogs make a great short, but if you get the Yeti style tumbler, they're saving lives. Okay, that might be a little dramatic, but still. Love bird dogs. Go ahead and check them out. And again, you'll never want to take them off. All right, let's talk a little bit, just quickly, about the series upcoming with the Dodgers. Now, previously, if Zach Wheeler had thrown yesterday, he would have been in a situation where you would have had a bullpen game against the Los Angeles Dodgers. But now you have a situation because of the pushback and the day off, you can go ahead and push a start and you can push some time. And you can now go ahead and use a bullpen game, not against the Dodgers, but against the Arizona Diamondbacks, because you'll have enough time to do that. So the bullpen game that the Phillies have every 5 days is now scheduled for the first game against the Diamondbacks, because you have the 3 games against the Dodgers this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then you have the Diamondbacks on Monday. So I'd much rather, I know you look at it and you say the Diamondbacks are 37-25, the Dodgers are 36-27. I still look at the Dodgers as a much better lineup. And the further back you can push a bullpen game, the better. You might be able to find a solution between now and then, come up with something. Maybe the start matches up with Griff McGarry or Mick Abel, and you call those guys up. But the longer we can go without a bullpen game, the better. The last bullpen game the Philadelphia Phillies had was in Washington against the Nationals. Now, in fairness, it was a 4-2 win, so that went well. But the pitchers in that one were Matt Strahm, Andrew Vasquez, Dylan Covey, Junior Marte, Gregory Soto, Seranthony Dominguez, Craig Kimbrell. It kills your bullpen. You don't want that against the Dodgers, and especially in a winnable home series. You go on the road to play the Diamondbacks. I mean, that's going to be tough. And without a day of rest, you play the Dodgers at 1:35 on Sunday, and you immediately hop a cross-country flight to get over to Arizona to play the Diamondbacks. That's already going to be a tough one anyway. You'd rather put your bullpen game that day than have it in a winnable series against the Dodgers. So I like that it's kind of pushed that back a little bit and caused that situation to happen. All we need, folks, is some natural disaster every 5 days so the Phillies don't have to throw bullpen games anymore. Can it keep going all season long? Obviously, I'm tongue-in-cheek. They need to find a situation there. But for now, this somewhat works out for them, so that's a benefit further down the line. But, hey, Phillies need to take care of business tonight against the Detroit Tigers. Chance to sweep them, chance to win their 5th straight. So take care of business. Again, 6:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is that game. Phillies, Tigers, Sirius XM app. Every pitch of the hometown radio broadcast, you know the deal. But go ahead and check them out. Just search Phillies on the SXM app. And that's all for today's Locked On Phillies. Rating, reviewing, subscribing wherever you get your podcasts and YouTube and all that good stuff. You know that as well. And thank you so much. I know it's smoky outside. I know you got a lot going on in your life. Thank you so much for checking us out today on Locked On Phillies. Talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.